Now at 11.
A 1-2 punch from Mother Nature. Heavy rain still likely, possible flooding.
We're in the Outer Banks as Hurricane Joaquin changes its path.
What North Carolina is doing to brace for the storms.
Plus another deadly shooting rampage. The news at 11 starts right now.
Live from the Triangle, this is WNCN News at 11.
We are ready and we are prepared.
A state of emergency tonight as we track two different storm systems. Hurricane Joaquin shifting its path again.
But first, we've got some heavy rain and possible flooding to get through. This is what the radar looks like right now. Good evening. I'm Sean Maroney.
And I'm Sharon Taswell. Our crews were at the coast and throughout central North Carolina tonight as emergency preparations are underway. We start tonight with WNCN's Chief Meteorologist Wes Hohenstein, who is tracking both storms west.
Hi, guys. Good evening to you and to you at home. We'll get to that updated track in just a second, but the rain continues. It has now been a week straight of clouds and rain, and what we're expecting tomorrow could be an all-day event, could be a half-day or more heavy rain event, and it could cause some localized flooding. Showers continue outside right now, the heaviest of which pushing to the west side of our viewing area from Chatham County down through parts of Moore County. But I want to widen out and show you what's coming our way through the overnight hours and through most of the day tomorrow. All this moisture offshore, and there's plenty more to come. There's a whole ocean fill, and that will be streaming over our area throughout the day tomorrow. That is why the entire state of North Carolina, the entire state of South Carolina, and most of Virginia are all under some kind of flood watch through Sunday night. For us, this will not be a historic or a disastrous flooding event, but 3 to 6 inches are possible. A lot of that could come tomorrow. So inside is going to be a good thing tomorrow. Now, a few hundred miles to our south, to the Bahamas, where Hurricane Joaquin is still a Category 4 storm, but for the 4th time in a row, we've had another shift to the east. We will talk about why this is happening, and I'll walk you through the day hour by hour tomorrow with our rain in just a few minutes.
All right, Wes, and today Governor Pat McCrory issued a state of emergency ahead of the heavy rain and Hurricane Joaquin.
And the governor says the state is contacting federal emergency partners and will activate the Emergency Operations Center tomorrow morning.
I cannot stress enough that we are talking about the real possibility of deadly flooding in many areas around our state.
Well, communities across the Triangle are preparing for that possible flooding. WNCN's Michael Highland joins us on the very wet roads in Durham. Michael.
Yeah, Sharon, things just really started picking up again in the last 15 minutes or so. We're on 147 North heading toward downtown Durham. Let's give you a live look at the roads out here. It's a lot of what we've been seeing for the last several days out here. But all around the city, we caught up with people who are planning for a rough few days, but hoping to be pleasantly surprised. This is what Graham Weddington is hoping to avoid. The creek behind Nana's restaurant in Durham rising up and water rushing in.
Well, so what happens is there's a lot of runoff from some of the businesses and the houses up here.
And it all comes toward the restaurant.
We can tell that it's happening about 20 or 30 minutes before it happens because it's prodigious. It really comes up, floods through here, and then it'll flood right down this walkway. This entire parking lot fills up with water.
This shopping complex along University Drive in Durham is notorious for flooding. Business owners are stocking up on sandbags, hoping to minimize the damage.
There's always a concern.
Everett Dyer owns Dyer's Tailors. He's taken all his electrical equipment off the floor, knowing the potential problems the next few days could bring.
You know, I've been in this building about 15 years, and I've been through quite a few.
A couple miles down the road, a Durham Public Works crew has been down in the storm drains. They're using this giant vacuum to try to unclog them and keep the water from pooling on the street.
Tree limbs and leaves being blown off, they generally cause a large concern when you come to grates and basins.
As concerned as Graham Weddington is,
this is sort of one of those cases where we're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best.
It's something he's managed to get through before. When it's all said and done, do you guys have any specials or anything to get everybody back in?
Lots of fish, a lot of beautiful seafood coming through here, the beautiful creek shrimp. It's really nice.
And I think I would watch out for that creek shrimp if I were you. Taking a look live out here again, Public Works crews have done what they can at this point to get some of those drains clear. They're asking people if you can help out in your neighborhoods, do so. A lot of times when people call for help, it's really just as simple as taking a rake to them and just getting the leaves and the tree limbs off of there. We're live in Durham. Michael Hyland, WNCN News.
All right, Michael, thank you. And we can't stress enough how important it is to have an emergency kit. Store enough food and water that will last for 3 to 7 days. Also, make sure you have any medication you need, as well as a first aid kit, flashlights and batteries, and a weather radio. Also, we're learning tonight that the transmitter in Garner is down, which means many of the weather radios will not work. However, the transmitter in Chapel Hill is still working. And it's not just flooding you need to be concerned about. You also need to watch out for falling trees.
Earlier today, a tree fell on I-95 in Harnett County, killing a driver. WNCN's Nate Rogers continues our team coverage.
Hey, Sean and Sharon, we're on I-95 right outside of Dunn, where that fatal accident happened earlier today involving the fallen tree. Highway Patrol say they anticipate even more incidents involving fallen trees to occur because of the weather. Now, right around 1:30 this afternoon, a tree fell into the highway on I-95 as several cars were passing through. The tree hit at least 2 vehicles, killing a female passenger. But as rain continued to fall throughout the day, Cumberland County and city leaders had several meetings and conference calls to come up with a plan to deal with potential dangerous weather conditions near.
If it's flooding or if it's, the hurricane does come over us, we are making sure that our ducks are in a row, storm drains are clean, police are on standby, our assets are pre-located throughout the city.
Now, even if Hurricane Joaquin doesn't come our way, we could still get 3 to 7 inches of rain throughout the weekend. Emergency officials advise everyone to be prepared. They're saying make sure you have enough food in the house and water to last at least 3 days. Also, make sure you have some cash on hand and be prepared for any possible power outages. Make sure you have candles, batteries, things of that nature. In Cumberland County, Nate Rogers, WNCN News.
Nate, thank you. And now on to our coast, where the threat of Hurricane Joaquin forced hundreds of people to evacuate Ocracoke Island. Here's WNCN's Jonathan Rodriguez with more on what's being done ahead of the storm.
Well, good evening. We're actually on the ferry coming from Ocracoke Island heading towards Hatteras. As you know, there was a mandatory evacuation that started at 3 p.m. today. Some people are just going to ride this thing out, but others aren't taking any chances.
Joaquin, I don't think it's that big a storm, but I hope it doesn't hit here.
Turby Seitz and his 4-legged companion were one of the few people riding the ferry to Ocracoke.
We were told they were doing an evacuation for Ocracoke Island.
Vacationers and people who live on the island filed off the boats, making their way inland.
And we're really basically just doing our normal operation and getting as many people off the island as they tell us to get off.
The ferries are working through the night with Hurricane Joaquin cutting some trips short. This couple came from Virginia.
Really just kind of
seen a sign.
Yeah.
Said leave. We debated on leaving in the morning, and then last minute we decided we were leaving tonight.
And now where to next?
We're not sure.
What are you worried about at this point?
Just getting everything to high ground.
Steve Holsinger lives on Ocracoke and was only making a trip back to haul some of his stuff off the island.
That's our biggest concern, is probably the storm surge if it comes through and just all the water.
Until then, these ferries are pushing through in case Joaquin decides to change his path again. What's it like when a storm comes through like this?
Hold on.
Now, these ferries are going to continue to run on a first-come, first-served basis. They want to get everybody off of Ocracoke at this point by Saturday. Now, I was talking to the captain. He said one of the things to keep note of is even if Joaquin makes his way further east, the storm surge that comes with that system will still make these waves really, really choppy, and that's what they're trying to avoid at this point, and excessive flooding that we're expected to see throughout the area. We'll continue to keep you updated right here on WNCN.
All right, that's Jonathan Rodriguez reporting. Jonathan, thank you. And when we're not on the air, you can track all the latest changes on WNCN.com. All you have to do is look under the Hurricane Central under the Weather tab.
This is also an important time to download our WNCN News app. You can stream our newscasts online and get push notifications. Just look for it in your app store. Another major story we're following tonight in the Pacific Northwest.
10 people confirmed dead in another mass shooting on a college campus. This all unfolding late this morning at Umpqua Community College, about 200 miles south of Portland, Oregon.
Late this evening, authorities identify the shooter as 26-year-old Chris Harper Mercer, who was eventually killed in a shootout with the police. President Obama expressing outrage.
Each time we see one of these mass shootings, our thoughts and prayers are not enough. It does not capture the heartache and grief and anger that we should feel. and it does nothing to prevent this carnage from being inflicted someplace else in America.
In addition to the 10 dead, 7 people were seriously wounded. Umpqua is a 2-year community college with roughly 3,300 full-time students. Another developing story tonight, 5 U.S. service members among the 12 dead after a military transport plane crashed in Afghanistan. A U.S. official says the plane crashed in eastern Afghanistan around midnight local time. No word on what caused the crash or the identities of the Americans killed.
Still ahead, another massive data breach, what millions of T-Mobile customers need to be watching for.
And a teacher turnover, why North Carolina is struggling to keep educators in the state.
Plus, another live look at driving conditions in I-47 South in Durham. Carly.
I'm Carly Griffith, and coming up next, I'm going to tell you about the toll that all this rain is taking on our roads.
We're back with a consumer alert, another data breach, and this time it affects millions of T-Mobile customers. It happened to the vendor that processes credit applications for the company. The hackers stole records of around 15 million people who required a credit check from September 2013 through September of this year. They now have addresses, birth dates, and social security numbers. T-Mobile is offering free credit monitoring to anyone who may be affected. You can find more information online at WNCN.com. And a call tonight to increase teacher pay today. Teachers and Democratic lawmakers pointed fingers at Republicans for not getting teachers' salaries to the national average during the legislative session.
They made the statements during a press conference hosted by Progress NC Action. We also heard from a Durham elementary school teacher who has to work a second job at night at a department store to help make ends meet.
It's time. It's overdue that we compensate these teachers who day after day come in with this passion to educate these children in North Carolina.
Conference report. Republican lawmakers have pointed to improvements made, such as raising starting teacher salaries to $35,000 a year and giving teachers and state employees a $750 raise. This comes the same day the State Department of Public Instruction announced that North Carolina is struggling to keep its teachers. Numbers released today show that the teacher turnover rate last year was 14.84%. That's just over 14,000 teachers leaving their positions. It's also higher than the year before's rate, which was 14.12%.
Activists concerned about an immigration bill taking their message straight to Governor Pat McCrory today. Demonstrators held a rally in front of the executive mansion. They're concerned about a bill that limits the type of identification government officials can accept and bans sanctuary cities. A demonstrator handed Governor McCrory a petition asking him to veto the bill later at a separate rally. And we have a health alert tonight. North Carolina is reporting its first flu death of the season. DHHS says an adult in the western part of our state died from the illness last week. Over 200 people in North Carolina died from the flu last season. Now, the season typically starts in October and runs through May. And to help encourage people to get the flu shot, Wake County is holding a series of flu clinics. They'll take place every Thursday in October at the Public Health Center on Sunnybrook Road in Raleigh. And the cost for the vaccine is $30. Wake County does accept most insurance. For more information about the clinics, just log on to WNCN.com.
Back to the weather. Threats of flooding tonight across the Carolinas. This is video out of Spartanburg, South Carolina, where flooding washed a bridge away and has killed one person. And there's a real possibility that we could see some flooding in our area. Chief Meteorologist Wes Hohenstein, you've been watching the models. We have this storm system moving in before any possibility of the hurricane.
So we got good news on Joaquin. We shared at the top of the newscast. It's still going to be a very wet day tomorrow, but the historic, devastating flooding is actually probably going to be centered more in South Carolina now and more to our west. We won't have that, but we've still got some decent rain. Some is falling right now. You can see scattered showers continue. The clouds have been around. This is the 7th day in a row we've had this, and I want to widen out and show you what's coming tomorrow. So you see this mess of rain just offshore. That is going to move up to the north. A lot of it's going to hit South Carolina. The question that we will have to figure out throughout the next 24 hours is, where is the heaviest band going to line up? Is it going to line up right over the triangle? Maybe over I-95? Is it going to line up over the triad? That will determine who gets 2 or 3 inches of rain and who gets 5 or 6 inches of rain. Either way, you're going to need the umbrella tomorrow and maybe a jacket. How about some good news for a second? Today, the first day of October, actually felt like it. We cooled off. The cold front worked, and you can tell by our 24-hour temperature change map here, it's 13 degrees colder right now here in the Triangle than it was last night at this time. 14 degrees colder down in Rayford. And I'll use the word cold. It is October, so let's do it. Tomorrow, we don't have a lot of change to talk about. It'll be cloudy all day. It'll be wet most of the day, if not all the day. And in that time, we've got a lot of heavy downpours with temperatures starting in the 50s, staying in the 50s through lunchtime, maybe topping out at 60 before falling back into the upper 50s by tomorrow evening. So with all this rain coming not only tomorrow but through the weekend, our entire area and really the entire state under a flash flood watch through Sunday night. During that time, we could see 3 to 6 inches of rain. And then we've got the wind as well. But I think we'll be closer to that 3 than we will that 6 inches of rain, because we've been comparing these for the last couple of days. These are all the main computer models we look at as guidance with their total rainfall amounts for the next couple of days. And remember, early on in the week, we were talking 6 and 7. Well, they have come down. So we don't look at this one or this one. We kind of look at the sum and look at the trends like we do with those hurricane models. And the trends are coming down. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a dry day, and it doesn't mean it's going to be light rain. We still have heavy rain. So here we are early tomorrow morning. The commute will be wet. We could see some lighter rain by lunchtime, but there's that heavy band. And again, where exactly is that heavy band going to line up? Even through tomorrow night. Good thing a lot of the football games for high school football have been moved, because those heavy downpours will continue into Friday night, and then we get into Saturday morning. We could see a little bit of dry time for the middle part of the day, and even, as you see here, a little bit of sunshine sneaking in, maybe in time for some of the college football games in town. Meanwhile, a few hundred miles to our south, the Bahamas getting clobbered tonight, unfortunately, with Category 4 Hurricane Joaquin. Winds are still at 130 miles per hour. I want to show you the computer models. Remember, we're going to watch the trends and where the cluster is going to go. Don't pick out one, pick out the cluster, and look where the cluster is going tonight. A lot of them have continued to shift back to the east. That is good news for the state of North Carolina and the entire East Coast, and the National Hurricane Center has picked up on that as well, shifting the storm yet again to the east for the 4th time in a row. And by Sunday night, we could have a hurricane more than 300 miles away from the state of North Carolina. So it is good news tonight with the hurricane, but we still have some really wet weather as we head into tomorrow. In addition to some windy weather, that could mean some downed trees leading to power outages. Temperatures from 60 tomorrow with scattered showers this weekend, guys, to highs around 70. We still have a few showers in on Monday, but then we have dry weather Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday with sunshine and highs in the mid-70s. So we've got about 4 more days of this weather before we get some sunshine. Remember, it's been a week. We've got 4 more to get through.
It's been a long time.
Saturday, you were saying earlier today, there might be chances of the sun poking through.
Right, so morning time Saturday, some rain, but afternoon, some dry time with even a us of sun sneaking in.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
All right. And
I know we had to hear that again.
Yeah, remind us that, right?
What is that?
And hopefully Joaquin keeps moving away.
Yeah, so that's good. 4 updates in a row from the National Hurricane Center that have all shifted east. It's not set in stone yet, so we'll have to watch tomorrow, but we're on a good trend.
That could change, but yeah, hopefully it stays that way.
We'll keep checking with you. All right, Wes, thank you. And speaking of the weekend, the weather is forcing events across the Triangle to, well, make different plans. The Wide Open Bluegrass Festival in Raleigh will move all of the events indoors. Many of the performances will now take place at the Raleigh Convention Center. WNCN is proud to sponsor the event, and you can find more information about the changes right now on WNCN.com. The Duke Cancer Institute also is postponing its breast cancer walk scheduled for Saturday in Raleigh. It will now take place October 17th at North Hills, and organizers are encouraging walkers to use this extra time to continue their fundraising efforts. We know water on the roads can be dangerous to drivers, but when it seeps beneath the roadways, it can be a hazard as well.
Now, this is a live look at the roads in I-40 and I-540. Carly Griffith spoke to local officials about what they're doing to keep streets safe.
When the skies open up, road crews across the state eye the pavement to make sure it doesn't do the same.
Sometimes there may be a surge of water to a drainage tunnel under a road, and it may break the tunnel, and that breaks the road up.
And with so many days straight of rain across our area, crews like the one in Apex have to act fast.
For a prolonged period, it will tend to deteriorate the pavement faster, potentially erode the base under the road, and get into some trouble when cars do get back on it.
To avoid any kind of big damage like that, crews take time making sure rainwater doesn't pool up on roadways.
Make sure all of the basins are clear of debris, the pipes are flowing freely so that they can take as much storm water as possible.
So probably one of the only good things about all the rain that we've had this week is that it has allowed crews to pinpoint problem areas, basins that are backed up somehow or another, and they're able to clear them out to get them ready for the possible flooding that we're going to have this weekend.
Even though officials say the chance of major damage to roads is slim, they're still urging drivers to be careful out there.
Pay more attention to the routes that you typically travel.
Do not drive through standing water. You don't know how deep it is, and you don't know what's underneath it. Then maybe part of the road was washed away.
In Wake County, Carly Griffith, WNCN News.
Those road crews have their work cut out for them.
They sure do.
All right, still ahead, more travel options for passengers at RDU.
Plus,
but everyone understands that you got to do things a certain way. Playing here is a privilege, not a right.
NC State's head football coach speaking out about the dismissal of one of the Wolfpack.
And here's another live look at the driving conditions, this time on I-40 and Wade Avenue. No problems to report right now, but the rain is falling, at least lightly. We'll be right back.